Hi, Luvena. I'm sorry for the delay.
No, that's okay. It's good you're here. Just we'll just take a minute and we'll start at 5. Okay?
Yes,
Just a
yes.
minute.
Okay.
Namaste and Hari Om everyone. Welcome to Wiki Karnataka Yoga Council's Yoga Samvad for November. My name is Luvena. I am the state president for our organization here in Karnataka. And I'd like to welcome all of you. But before we begin, I would like us to center ourselves for our event with 3 omkars, sitting comfortably, spine straight, face soft and relaxed, taking a deep breath in. Om. 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 Namaste and welcome once again. It gives me great pleasure to see all of you here and to have all of us here listening in for a wonderful session that we have planned for today. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce someone who will be actually co-leading and co-hosting this event today with me, Dr. Sharon Samuel, who is not just leading this session for us today on Ayurveda, but she's also a council member with the Wiki Karnataka Yoga Council. She is also an associate professor in Ayurveda, and she actively teaches Ayurveda for undergraduate students as well as guiding postgrads of obstetrics and gynecology in Ayurveda. She is presently working as an associate professor and a consultant in the Department of Prasuti, Tantra, and Stri Roga with the Sri Sri College of Ayurveda Science and Research in Bengaluru. And and I also know her as someone who supports yoga teacher trainings in various institutions here. So, Sharon, it's a pleasure to have you here, and I'd love to to have you here and tell us a little bit more about yourself, something where that I have missed in this very quick introduction that we have of our council members.
Thank you so much, Luvena. Like that was that is pretty much who I am. And yeah, so I believe in I strongly believe in simple living. So even though I am a practitioner of Ayurveda, my prescriptions are shorter, and my lifestyle guidance is the tips to have a healthy lifestyle, that's longer. So I believe in simple living as the solution to many of the health issues that we have right now, and that's what I teach, and that's what I propagate, and I believe that once that's done, everything falls into place. Apart from that, yes, you've covered everything. I'm looking forward to this session.
Yeah, and we have, as Wiki Karnataka Yoga Council, we work in various different areas, or we'd like to influence community governance and funding, as well as so many other aspects of it. And I think this is in our Yoga Samvad, which is a dialogue, not just between you and me, but with our community as well. We're looking to influence and create impact as women in yoga and Ayurveda as well, towards the women in our society. And we thought that we're not just with the current pandemic, but just in general, when it comes to the lifestyle that we are living in, the stressful lives, and the surge in so many hormonal imbalances that people are experiencing, not just women, men as well. And everyone actually is experiencing a lot of hormonal shifts. And both of us being professionals in the industry, we know of how the work that we do helps people when it comes to bringing about balance. So I think, without much ado, we'd just jump right into it, and let people know, let our audience know. We've got people also watching us on Facebook, and we have our council members watching the Facebook live as well, for for any questions that may come in. So you can please take over from here, and then I will come in later when when it's Yoga's turn to speak. And for everyone in the audience as well as on Facebook, if you've got any questions, or if you've got any comments, anything that you'd like to share, we are speaking about women, about hormones, and hormonal bringing about hormonal balance, and the influence of Ayurveda and yoga, the role of it. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to put them in our comments, and our council members will make sure that they are highlighted up to us to be addressed during the session. And if there is something that is of a personal nature, a personal question, then I think you may want to reach out to us separately, because we're trying to keep this accessible to the general audience, instead of a very personal diagnosis, which we will not be making online. So, Dr. Sharon, over to you. We're speaking
Thank you.
about
Yeah.
women and hormones and
Hormones
whatever
and
it is
yoga
that you'd
and
like to take it.
Ayurveda. Yes, yes. So yeah. So I'll jump straight into the topic, because yeah, there's a lot to talk about it, and I'm sure, and and I know that yoga contributes a lot to this entire concept called hormones, and so I'm just going to dive into it right, straight into the topic. So if I may ask some of you here, as to when we talk about hormones, I hear this very often. People come to me, or they just say, I have a hormonal issue, and can you sort it out for me? So the issue is with my hormones. So when they say that, I don't think even they know what they're talking about. So I just want to get an idea as to what you think hormones are. So when we say we're talking about hormones, what comes to your mind? Would If any of you would like to answer, or just drop it in the chat box also.
Yes, you can either type it in the chat box, or, briefly unmute yourselves.
When we say hormones and hormonal issues, yeah, so they are chemicals released by certain glands that regulate the body's function. Being emotional, often in a very negative way. Okay, yeah. Weight gain, yes, that's a very common complaint. Yeah. Okay. Chemicals responsible for how we feel, behave, and look. Yes, definitely. Yes, yes. They regulate our body's functions, various functions. Yes.
I think I'll also add here, in case anyone is not saying it, but it has a lot to do with our menstrual cycles as well.
Yes, yes. Yes, they're chemicals. So they're chemicals. That thing is very clear, I guess. They're chemicals released by the body. They're not substances, but they're chemicals. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yes, like we have got most of the answers, and they're pretty technical and they're right as well. So the thing is, they are hormones. When we think of hormones, now people you related to conditions like disorders like PCOS or thyroid or growth issues or something that they see on their skin, they and then we diagnose it as a certain condition and we say it's a hormonal issue. But hormonal imbalance means there is a defect in a system which is not what you see. There's, if you have an issue on your skin, the problem is not with the skin, but the problem is with the endocrine system. That is a system which is producing this particular chemical. So hormones are a part of this complex chemical system. So this is different from other organs which secrete. So there are different glands in the body and they secrete something, they go into that particular space, perform that particular function, and then it's done. But hormones, on the other hand, are secreted by glands located at different places in the body. And these chemicals are assigned to perform a certain function, a distant function, somewhere far away from the place that they are produced. Now, this can happen in two ways. One is a very simple way, it's water soluble, it enters into the blood, goes, does its function. Another thing is that it is not water soluble, so as a result it forms a compound, and that goes to a particular place, breaks down, performs its function. And this, again, there is a slight complexity there. This can be sometimes dependent upon a certain gene function of that particular tissue or cell. So now that you see, this is not a simple mechanism. There is a production at a certain place, it goes to another place, and even when it reaches that certain place, that receptor, the chemical comes like this, the receptor has to catch it. So this receptor has to be functioning properly, and it's not only the receptor but the gene that is responsible for this receptor that is going to influence the function of this receptor. So there are a lot of factors which are responsible to make sure that your hormones are functioning in the right way, which is why the system itself becomes very complicated. It is not as simple as the other glands where you see a problem in your, where you see a certain cyst in your tissue, in your ovary, you burn it up, the tissue is gone visibly, but the endocrine system that is responsible for this dysfunction still stays there. So when this is just a small example that I'm talking about. So when we think of hormonal functions and hormonal variations, we think of different functions. Some of the basic functions are like digesting our food, helping us sleep, performing our reproductive functions, performing our a lot of basic functions in the system. So though reproduction is one of the functions of the endocrine glands, the hormones, it is not the only function. We require these hormones to perform even the simplest function like breathing. So the endocrine system is that which teaches us to breathe, which teaches us to live, which teaches us to exist. And it also teaches us how to expend the energy that we have utilized. Like we take something, how to use it to suit it in a way that best, helps you. So this is what the endocrine system is about. When there is some dysfunction in this system, what gets hampered is this basic existence. So whatever air we breathe is not utilized properly, whatever food we eat is not utilized properly, whatever we apply on the body is not utilized properly, even medicines are not utilized properly. So correcting this system becomes very complex. Now here when we see, I hope now you have understood the different functions that hormones perform, and looking at the vast number of functions, we can bring it under a very major element in Ayurveda that is called Vata dosha. So see, it performs if you are aware of the three doshas, you would know about the Vata dosha as well. If not, let me just give you, let me just tell it in brief. Vata dosha is something that is responsible for all movements. small movements and bigger movements. So bigger movement, gross movements like moving your hand, getting up from this table, going like that. And also the smaller movements like as I breathe, my alveoli expands, takes up oxygen. That is also a function of Vata dosha. The eggs get released from the follicles, they move through the fallopian tubes, they go into the uterus. That's also a function of Vata dosha. Expelling a baby from the uterus into the outer world, that's also a function of Vata dosha. Now, when we look at the variety of functions that the endocrine gland performs, right from basic physiological functions like growth and development of our entire body, of the cells in our body, and also some other functions which are responsible to keep us going, like digesting, metabolism, respiration, circulation, excretion, every bit of this function, reproduction, the basic act of having a sexual desire, the basic, the act of expelling a fetus, also all of this is a function of the hormones also. And it also influences mental factors, like it influences how we handle stress, it influences our behavioral patterns, it influences our sleep, it influences our mood. So when we take all of this into consideration, it has got a lot of resemblance to the way Vata dosha functions in the body. Now when we take this into consideration, I believe there is a lot that holistic living and Ayurveda has to offer in this particular aspect of endocrine system and the hormones. Now, let's look at this vast variety of functions performed, and let's look at where all these signals are coming from. Because yes, this is happening in the body, but why is it happening and from where are they getting the signals? So when we know where they're getting the signals from, it's easier to correct them. Yeah. So these signals again are not rooted in one particular stimuli, but they derive it from multiple regulatory systems of the body. That is, the body works in a certain delicate mechanism. Like for instance, we go to sleep, and then there is a secretion of growth hormone. I think you must be you might be aware of this. That's why children are encouraged to sleep earlier, because there is a spurt in the growth hormones, and also there is a slight peak in the hormones that are responsible for ovulation also, which happens around this time. So unless this happens, the body's regulatory system doesn't come into play. So we are unable to recover, restore, and get back to somewhere that we have been. And this triggers an imbalance in the hormonal system or the endocrine system. Now, this is just one instance. So there are multiple regulatory systems in the body, and this handles what happens in the endocrine system. This could be as simple as you take sugar and the insulin production gets stimulated. It could be as simple as that, or it could be as complex as our hypothalamo pituitary ovarian axis. So the brain signals something that's happening down in the pelvis, which is the ovary. So it could be simple, or it could be this complicated too. So when we look at what Ayurveda has to give here, let me just bring a small correlation into the idea that we have today about hormones and what Ayurveda has explained. These hormones are essential for daily functioning. Yeah. So Ayurveda also speaks about doshas as something that is essential for daily functioning. The balance in doshas are essential for daily functioning. And let me again tell you, Vata is the king of doshas. Vata is the one which rules both the other Pitta and Kapha doshas. So just like hormones they are nothing but the ones that regulate the hormones. So we need to keep them in a certain kind of balance. There's another concept. These hormones vary along with age, they vary along with day, that is day and night, and they also vary according to stimuli, what we eat, what we do, how we move our body, and all these things. Again, Ayurveda says vayo ahoratri bhuktanam. The doshas keep changing according to your age, vayas, according to ahoratri, according to day and night, and also according to bhukta, that is how you eat and how you metabolize and do your other activities. So there seems to be a lot of correlation there as well. And again, there's another very important thing here. There is a very, very delicate balance of these hormones. We all know this. If we have a, if there is a, if we have not, if our, like what I always say, if the dal in the cooker gets burnt, we get a hormonal trigger. It's as simple as that. So there's a very delicate balance, and the doshas are also managed by such a delicate balance. And there's another thing, that without hormones, everything is stagnant. No ovarian follicle growth, no reproduction, no child, nothing, no growth of hair, nothing happens. So it is essential to have these hormones, there and functioning at its best. So it's very important to keep it going. Another important thing is that it helps to balance the body, mind, and the soul. So again, the triad is balanced by the hormones. So this is how important the endocrine system is to our body, to our very existence. So it would be very stupid of us to look at it after we develop a disorder. It would be very silly of us to be doing that, which is why Ayurveda talks about preventive medicine as the key to good health. And it is not like, okay, fine, oh, all right, it just talks about something as simple as waking up in the morning, big deal, it is not science. But that is where it all lies. Managing the circadian rhythm, waking up on time, kickstart, your hormones start pumping, functioning properly, and that is how the body gets into that rhythm of normalcy. So now that we've spoken about hormones and the endocrine system, I would like to tell you what Ayurveda has to offer in this particular uh, space. Now, yes, after we develop disorders, the treatment is different. So we have two kinds of treatments in Ayurveda. One, swastasya swasthya rakshanam. That is, if one is healthy, we try to protect them. And other one is aturasya roga nivaranam. That is, if one is sick, then we try to heal them. So both are equally important in Ayurveda. And who is swastha? All of us are swastha. When we're born, we're all swastha. So protecting ourselves and keeping us going right from there is the goal of Ayurveda. And I would like to take this time, a few minutes, to talk about that. Because Aturasya Roga Nivaranam we can do, and I am sure we can discuss about it later. But Swastasya Swasthya Rakshanam, I would like to talk about that. So again, first thing is that Ayurveda speaks about simple regimens like Dinacharya, things that you do every day, Rutucharya, things that you do according to each season. Now, these regimens or rituals are made according to the dosha variations in our body. So they are made such that the doshas do not get triggered in a particular time of the day. Like you wake up in the morning, what you do is you put your metabolic system into function. Your thyroid starts functioning properly. Your ovaries start functioning properly. Your adrenals start functioning properly. And as a result, once metabolism starts kicking in, insulin function is balanced, and all the other functions that are responsible, the cortisol is balanced, everything keeps functioning automatically. And when you start eating your food at the right time, that is at the time of the afternoon, when the metabolism is at its peak, what happens is automatically the food you digest gets converted and assimilated and goes into every other system that is required in the body. So there is no accumulation or growth of adipose tissues, or issues like that doesn't happen. Sleeping at the right time helps certain hormones to function properly. Adequate sleep is also essential to make sure that your glands are calm and they do their function properly. Now, this is like a very lengthy thing. I cannot talk, it's difficult to convey all of it now, but Dinacharya, it's available. There is a lot of it about Dinacharya on the internet as well. And many of us here are teaching about Dinacharya too. So learning Dinacharya and adopting it as a lifestyle regimen could help a lot in preventing hormonal diseases. Second thing is what it has to do in specific with women. So women are not just a carrier of ovaries. This is Norman Jeffcoat's quote. So he is one of the very famous authors of gynecology, and he said that women are not a carrier of ovaries, because after we cut off the ovaries and the uterus, still a woman comes back to the gynecologist, because she still is a woman. So there is a lot of things that's happening in the body which are not related to the uterus and the ovaries alone. And let me tell you why. That is because it is dependent on something called the adrenal glands, which are small glands present above your kidney, and they are such cranky pants. They start fussing over everything. You somebody did not appreciate you at work, they are upset. Your friends didn't your friend and you had an issue, they get upset. You have your coffee, they get upset. You don't have your coffee, they get upset. You didn't get to watch your favorite show, they get upset. They get upset for everything. And 40% of the female androgens which are responsible to perform basic female functions are produced from these androgens. And this is controlled by dinacharya. So it's very important to be putting these things into action because they help us tremendously. And this, when added with regimen responsible for controlling your vata during menstruation, which is called Rajaswala Paricharya, again, it is a, it's like cherry on the cake. You get it all and it's perfect. If you're able to do Dinacharya, Rutucharya along with Rajaswala Paricharya, I think we have done 80% of the work, and remaining 20% of the work, I think the doctors can do it well with a lot of outcome too. So, yeah. So women are delicate darlings, not because the body is made so, but because there is a lot of fluctuation which happens every month. And even if you are not menstruating, menopause is also not very easy because the estrogen, the ovaries stop to function. So we are delicate darlings, and this progressive feminism is not addressing this particular issue. So now the fact that we know all this should help us to tailor this feminism to suit our health needs as well, so that we get enough rest, so that we are able to take care of ourselves during menstruation. We get enough time for ourselves, so that our hormones stay in check, because these hormones need to be attended to. Once they're done, no PCOS, no thyroid, nothing. Everything is just in place. Yeah, so Luvena, with this, I think, yeah, I'll conclude.
Yeah,
Maybe we
thank
can
you
take it
for
up in the
an
discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that intro. You had my ears perk up when you said that, we are delicate darlings, but I understand that to be the delicacy, or the not the delicacy, the delicateness or the sensitivity of how fine and how minutely responsible our hormones affect the female body, for that matter. I was actually, I think one of the more underlying thought when it comes to even you know and this is just to address that note on progressive feminism also, is that it allows women to be in charge of their own self-care. And I think both through Ayurveda and when we speak now in terms of yoga as well, is the aspect of caring for ourselves and putting ourselves there, and recognizing that our bodies and minds have very specific needs. Which brings me to present lifestyle in itself, and the prevalence of polycystic ovaries, as well as thyroid disorders, which seem to be one of the most prevalent what you say diagnoses in most people today. We're not talking about diabetes because that is generic, that's not necessarily gender specific. But when it comes to PCOD, PCOS, and I know you spent a whole month with the awareness also on
Yes, yes.
PCOD and PCOS. Um, and yes, we also have a question, on bringing or shedding light on endometriosis. That was also something that we needed to speak about. And I was wondering what you have, what are your thoughts on that? How can we address that with Ayurveda, and what actually causes this? If we can look at that, and then I can actually come in to see on how we speak in terms of yoga as well.
Yes. So, yeah, Lumina, like you were saying, yeah, the word calling women delicate, it seems something against feminism, but I am a feminist, and I believe that this our Vedas actually encouraged women to take care of themselves. You were supposed to take time out for yourself during your menstruation, so that you are ready and charged up for the rest of the month to come. But today, with the overload, women are finding it difficult to take time for themselves, ask time for themselves too. I think it's very important, and that is also feminism. So yeah. Okay, now coming to the point of PCOS or other hormonal disorders, and what Ayurveda has to say about it. Now, like I said, most of these hormones are based on delicate rhythms. Like I said, the circadian rhythm, for instance. Circadian rhythm is the one that balances the FSH and the LH. So those who know about PCOS or are suffering from PCOS would know about these hormones. So these are the ones which cause the growth of these small follicles in the ovary. Now, this balance of FSH and LH is also achieved by sleep. This might sound very silly to some, but the 11 to 2 sleep actually tends to balance the FSH-LH ratio, and so without that sleep, it becomes very difficult to treat a person holistically. Now, this is just an instance that I'm talking about. Sleep is just an instance. Now, if we talk about food, it can become even more lengthier, and there is a lot in food that we can do to prevent these disorders. Now, this starts right from the time you're born, right from the time you start eating, and when the time you start indulging in several rasas, the tastes, and the kind of food that you eat, the kind of activity that you are indulging in, all of this can influence the development of these disorders in you. That is one. So not having a healthy regimen, or not eating right at the right time, not exercising right at the right time, not sleeping right at the right time. These are three major functions that can disturb the hormones and can develop in metabolic disorders like PCOS and thyroid. Now, PCOS is also partly a metabolic disorder. It's got an association with the insulin resistance also. So that's also very important. Now, that's a general part of it. Now, other one is the Rajaswala Paricharya. Is once we start menstruating, we have certain rituals, we have certain dietary practices. Now, that also helps the growth or stimulation of estrogen in the right way, production of LH and progesterone after that. That also depends upon how you take care of yourself during menstruation, which is called the Rajaswala Paricharya. Taking rest, not stressing your body out too much. I feel even simple things like pouring water on your head also influences the FSH, because the pituitary is very sensitive to cold also. The pituitary is very sensitive to environmental stimuli. So when we take that into consideration, I feel that was a practice which is developed to make sure that the FSH grows. FSH is functioning at the right place, the follicle stimulating hormone. So simple practices like these. Now, next, coming to improper practices. Now, when you don't do them properly, and instead you are in this race which is directed in the wrong direction, and you are not taking care of yourself, and when the stress builds up, that is when the system starts functioning abnormally. Now, for endometriosis, also for that matter, is a response to that inflammation. So endometriosis is when the body starts attacking its own tissues, or starts redirecting its own tissues. Now, there is still no clear definition as to what exactly triggers endometriosis, but we have seen in practice that bringing down our body is always in a constant state of inflammation, believe it or not. We are always trying to attack something. That is how our body is functioning right now. All of us grown adults sitting here, children maybe are spared if they're taken care of properly, but all of us grown adults sitting here are at a state of constant inflammation. So we are always attacking ourselves all the time, releases a lot of aging processes and all this, and a lot of other things that happen in the body. So endometriosis is also one such response to this inflammation, and we have observed that bringing down inflammation using medicines which calm the system, or either taking it orally, or practices like Abhyanga, Shirodhara, Pada Abhyanga, or little more stringent practices which are very specific to Ayurveda, like Shodhana procedures, Panchakarma procedures, which involve in removing the doshas from the system. at a periodic, doing it periodically. It is not a one time thing. We encourage getting this done every year to make sure that your system is in track. If this is done, we see that the inflammation drops down, and the complications and signs, even there's no painful menstruation at all. We've also seen the the hemorrhagic cysts disappeared in some time, and we've also seen people conceive with endometriosis and living a great life. The point is to improve the quality of life, and we have been able to achieve it. I'm very proud to say that too. I hope this address, I mean, there's a lot we could talk about
Yes,
why
I
it
know.
causes. Yeah.
Very true. I mean, none of these issues can just be spoken of in just 10, 15 minutes. I think this is a good time for us to also bring in. We do have a couple of questions which I will bring in later,
Okay.
and I've taken note of them as well. I just wanted to bring in over here when we speak about yoga. Now yoga is always looked at in like, well, that's an issue that I have as well, where most people think that if you're talking about yoga, we're only talking about asanas, but asana is a part of it, and yoga has many different ways in which it impacts all our lives. One is definitely as a spiritual practice, and then the other one is a very therapeutic practice as well. But just to let all of us know here that when yoga is considered as therapy, then it is always a complementary therapy. It works alongside both conventional as well as Ayurvedic practitioners. It doesn't take over. It doesn't need to completely say no, you don't need any kind of treatment. It is something that we have to use as part of our as part of our existence, as part of our lifestyle. So in this particular conversation, I'd like to bring in just that therapeutic aspect of how yoga is helpful and beneficial when it comes to working with our body, because at the end of the day, yoga, the when it's used for the physical, for the body of how do we say it, let me just put this here now. Okay, so when we talk about yoga for the benefit of our physical forms or the physical existence, then it is so that we can eventually be calm and healthy enough to pursue our spiritual aspirations as well. But when we talk about inflammation now, and it's usually inflammation refers to something that is in flames or something that is on fire, which means that the vata, even if it's a largely vata related issue, has fanned the flames of heat within us and is starting to burn things within us. So the common sense approach, and if I've got any of the students in here, they'll say, oh, there Luvena goes all over again, speaking about common sense. The common sense approach would be, if something is on fire, you cool it down. And cooling it down is an aspect of yoga therapy, which will be, or yoga, even the asanas that you'll be choosing, the pranayam that you'll be choosing, will be to start cooling the body and not aggravate the inflammation. So a number of practices which involve where you're withdrawing, where you're going into, you're resting, relaxing, your breathing practices, where your pranayam will not have kapalbhati or bhastrika for that matter, because those will increase the heat in the body. On the contrary, you will want to have something that is cooling. You will want to have more of your shitali or your shitkari, your dhautis, any of those asanas also, which start taking you inwards, forward bends, and a lot of relaxation, lots of restorative and rejuvenating practices. But regardless of all, I think what yoga does is it helps you to start bring about balance in the body. When we talk about working with our different chakras, it talks a lot about chakras that bring a sense of grounding and a sense of balance. And I'd like to, since we didn't talk that much about the thyroid gland is the one that regulates almost everything in the body. And especially with women, and this is a socio-cultural fact all across the globe. It's not just for Indian women or a particular group of women, but the thyroid is largely affected by your throat chakra or your Vishuddhi chakra. And if we look at the social cultural aspect of women in general, most of them have usually been silenced over history, over the entire period of time. And when you silence a voice, then you end up shutting this area. and your thyroid, which is very closely or very strongly energized by your Vishuddhi chakra, then starts shutting down because your Vishuddhi chakra or your communication channel also has been silenced. So, a lot of the practices when it comes to yoga is about listening to your mind, listening to your body, taking the input of of holistic wellness as well as your medical practitioner if you're following a practice, but largely to start stimulating conversation. When you start opening up, when you start speaking your truth, so there is a lot to do with with the similarities between yoga and Ayurveda when it comes to bringing about that sense of balance, because you look at the individual as a whole, not just symptoms. We don't just look at symptoms. You look at what is going on with this person also, of what they are holding back. And I think Ayurveda does help in a number of ways, because even the treatment that is offered is so specific to that individual's constitution. How does that person think? How does that person respond or react to certain situations? That makes a specific protocol very tailor made for them. So when it comes to my own story with the thyroid, there was a time when I was taking 250 micrograms of L-troxin, and now for the past 16 years I have actually been weaned off it. Not entirely, it's not my own sudden change. I have worked with allopaths as well as ayurveds and homeopaths together to come to a place where I do not need that anymore. But you need to have that level of awareness. And that awareness is something that we build through these practices that help us understand our bodies that much better. It's important, like you said, that we avoid going into the race of things, because the race in itself can be a stressor. When you are usually told don't stress about something, you end up stressing out about that very thing. And I think that's where yoga actually comes in as that aspect of even if it's the physiology, where we have our parasympathetic nervous system really kicking in to say, okay, start resting a little bit more, start taking it a little bit easier, breathe. And sometimes you need those tangible things. You need specific asanas tailored. And I think this is important because it's very easy to just pick up any class and say, oh, I'm doing my yoga asana. But you need to really know what asanas help you to bring the body back into balance. And it does when it comes to uh, it's important when it comes to using asana or reaching out to teachers to help you build your practice, that you speak with your teachers to understand if the teachers are also well aware of how to bring the body back into balance, instead of just going anywhere and practicing something that may cause further injury. And this is also true when it comes to finding the right Ayurvedic practitioner for you, isn't it, Dr. Sharon?
Yeah, because each person, like I've observed this. See, every physician has got their own way of practicing. Just like how yoga teachers are different, like each person has got an expertise in a certain place, and the way of looking at patients are also different. So finding your right physician is very important, and that takes time, and that takes a lot of trials too. So you really need to go out there with confidence and start exploring and finding your physician who's made for you. And yeah, they are out there, like I said. It's like finding your soulmate. Once you find the right physician, it's done. You're
And
taken
I
care of
think
for
that's
life.
that's the beauty of Ayurveda, because Ayurveda has always, I remember, and I keep telling this even in my sessions, that historically Ayurveda or the Vedyas were only paid if every member of their village, every individual was healthy. That was way before, right? So it was important for Vedyas to take their village or the people who they were responsible for to be healthy, and then also to be healthy enough to pursue spiritual pursuits, right? And I also remember there was this when you spoke about the when a woman is menstruating, it's also a time when a woman, and this is what Swami Dharmakirti was telling us very recently. Yeah, when she was saying that a menstruating woman is more sensitive to spiritual influence. And that's also another reason why in the Vedic period she was actually told to rest, not necessarily to say, oh, because you're in pain. She might not be in pain, because if she was looking after herself, she might not have menstrual pain. That is one of the ways we would relate to it today, that okay, maybe a woman has menstrual pain, so rest during that time. But on a spiritual level, apparently, in the Vedic system in itself, a menstruating woman is more keen and more susceptible, more receptive to spiritual vibrations. And that was one of the reasons why she was also asked to take the time off to cultivate that. Um, I'll just quickly go into some of the questions that we have. Dr. Sharon, if you could point us or give an indication for a website where people can read up more on Dinacharya. Okay.
Okay, there is a lot of information on. I can't. Yeah, there is a web. There is one where students of Ayurveda refer to. It's called Easy Ayurveda by one Dr. J.V. Hebbar. So
Yes.
that's a pretty good. It's simple. Things are
E-
told little easily. And yeah, I am going to talk about Dinacharya in the upcoming month too on my Instagram page. So you could follow
Yes,
me
we
there
will.
too.
Yeah, we will share that at the end of where we can find your details as well. Vidhi Punjabi asks, is cold water on the head bad?
Not really, because it's suggested that when we talk about snana in dinacharya,
Mm-hmm.
you're not supposed to use hot water for the head. So you're supposed to actually use room temperature water. It's not cold, but room temperature water for the head and lukewarm water for the body. So
Mm-hmm.
there is no evidence of using hot water on the head anywhere in the scriptures, and I feel it's not beneficial for the hair as well as for the brain inside. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about drinking water?
drinking water has to be warm. But
Warm.
again, it's not for everybody.
Mm.
Like you were saying, like, Ayurveda is tailor made, and the Pitta Prakriti people or people with Pitta Dosha Vikriti cannot use hot water. So, in such conditions, for instance, menorrhagia, heavy bleeding,
Mm-hmm.
in such conditions, or if you have acidic gastritis, in such conditions, you are not encouraged to use hot water, but you would rather use boiled water, which is cool to room temperature.
Yeah. I'm just smiling here to see Minoti Anand's message saying yoga and yellow attire lady.
Yeah, I saw that
So,
as well.
yellow
Yeah.
attire lady, good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. On a spiritual level. Okay. Is taking head bath during your periods bad?
See, there are again. I'm looking at it at the very in a very at the neuroendocrinology level.
Mm,
So, female reproductive neuroendocrinology, that is the reproductive system, the brain, and the endocrine system, are very delicately connected. Because I believe that the hypothalamus is very sensitive to plenty of external stimuli like weather change. I believe that probably exposing the hypothalamus to a temperature change during menstruation
mm,
could hamper the selection of follicles which happens during menstruation. So follicle selection happens at the time of menstruation, and I believe we shouldn't be interfering with that, because not just for conception, we're always not talking about conception, but those follicles can influence a lot of functions in the body, even diabetes. So it could even cause diabetes and other lipid metabolism dysfunction and all these things. So I believe we shouldn't be interfering with that, and it works well too. People get to relax a bit. So why wash your head during menstruation is what I feel.
mhm.
So yeah.
Mm. We had a question from Rebecca on bloating and intermittent fasting. If
Yeah.
you can just quickly touch up on that, because I know bloating is one of the observable symptoms during menstruation, and maybe take it alongside a question that we also have received privately on premenstrual syndrome.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And
So yeah.
additionally, since if you could just flow into it, I'll read all of them because they're there. There is a question asking, what is the difference between PCOS and PCOD, and how are they related to IR, insulin resistance? Um, Yes. Okay. So I think we can. And how does find out about the dosha, and how should one check this, since it does change over time? I mean, while you're making that note, maybe I can quickly answer this for Prerna. We can find out about, like, personally, of course, there are a number of different ways in which we can. There are observable ways, there are ways in which they are diagnosed by doctors, there are tests online, but of course you really need to take it with a big pinch of salt, because you have to really understand how an individual composition is at birth versus how it changes. It doesn't just change over time. Doshas change over the second, by minute. You think of something and it can actually change your dosha. But Dr. Sharon, now that you've finished taking your notes, if you want to add up on that, another question was on menopause. Okay. All right.
So talking about dosha and I think you were talking about Prakriti maybe. So yeah, so
I think
Luvena has
Prakriti as well as
clarified that.
Vikriti.
Yeah, so Prakriti doesn't change over time, and Prakriti is pretty much stable. You are born with a certain Prakriti, which defines who you are, and that changes with age. And like Luvena said, every second it changes. Everything you do changes your dosha Vikriti, and that could overpower your prakritic doshas and create issues. So balancing that and bringing them back to your prakriti is what we do as physicians and also yogic practitioners. On that note, I would like Luvina was saying, that yoga is a complementary therapy. In my practice, I use take help. I'm not a yoga teacher. I take help from practitioners I know to help my patients, because I believe that when I combine my treatment with yoga, the result in vata vitiation is unbelievable, because vata is mind and mind is vata. There are references stating that they are the same, because vata doesn't vata is chanchala, like a monkey keeps jumping from here. Mind is also chanchala, like a monkey keeps from jumping from here and there. Vata can move like this, mind can also move like this. So we can't bring down something invisible like vata only by medicines, but yoga and pranayama can help to do that. So yoga, I use yoga as a major part of my therapy for my patients, and I think this goes together. So I just wanted to say that. So again, coming to the first question, which was on intermittent fasting and bloating. So I'm not sure if you're talking about bloating during a premenstrual phase or bloating with intermittent fasting, because both are different. So first I'll address about the intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting is a very new idea, but in Ayurveda, we have a concept of Bhojana Kala, where there is a particular time you eat your food, and it's almost the same all the time. And we make sure that your food is digested before you take your previous food. So this is explained under the concept of Vishamashana Adhyashana. That is, you will not be taking your food in erratic time frames. Adhyashana, you will not be taking your food before the previous food is digested. So you will be eating your food in your time frame, considering that the previous meal has been digested. Now, this is a new concept of intermittent fasting that's been promoted now. And that they say, according to pear shaped, apple shaped, there's a different. I don't believe in all that. It's completely based on how you feel, and your ideally the time to eat your heaviest meal should be during your lunch time, which is the pitta kala, between 11 to 1. So 11:30 to 1, let's say, around that period should be your proper meal of the day, and your evening should be lighter meals, because your body is in a time of shutting down. And whenever you eat, you make sure that your previous food is digested, you feel light and good, and your quantity should be mita ashana, that is just enough to keep you going. And it should be, again, we know this ratio of half, one fourth, one fourth. That is half part of water, and the other part has a little bit of food. There's half part of food, then there's water, and then there's air. So that's how it is. So that's about intermittent fasting. So I don't really encourage this concept of intermittent fasting. and it's very subjective, and Ayurveda has been talking about this always, and it's very subjective, and it cannot be like just declared for everybody, and I don't believe any app can do it for you as too. So so coming to bloating, if you have gastritis, if you have pitta vitiation in your body, if you have that, you will suffer from bloating. So you will have to address that. So that's why you feel good when you take a Gelusil or any other antacid for that matter. In Ayurveda, we have medicines which address these issues. It's about bringing the vata down in the right direction and feeding your body the right kind of food. So when we do that, this bloating is handled. It's very easily handled. In fact, I can tell you from the number of patients that we have treated. Yeah, so it's very easily handled. Now coming to PMS, premenstrual syndrome. Okay, that on the other hand can vary from person to person. So PMS, we all suffer. All women would have some degree of PMS. When it becomes complicated, it becomes PMDD. Yeah, so it's a dysphoric disorder. So in this kind, people tend to get extremely agitated, and there are a lot of other complications, and it needs to be treated. It needs to be treated. You cannot do it with simple home remedies. It needs to be treated. So please visit your gynecologist, or an Ayurvedic gynecologist, whoever you prefer. Make sure that that is attended to. Now coming to IR, insulin resistance in PCOD, PCOS, like I mentioned earlier, the hormones have androgens, especially produced in PCOS, PCOD. Any of PCOS especially has a tendency to stimulate insulin resistance in the skeletal tissue, and it all goes off if you correct the environmental thing, which studies have shown. Correct your body, insulin resistance is corrected. So yes, so that's about PCOS and PCOD. There's a lot to it. I think we're running short of time, so I'm just going through it in brief. PCOD is a polycystic ovarian disease. It does not involve insulin resistance or hyperandrogenism. It's only small cysts in the ovary. It doesn't follow a particular pattern. PCOS, on the other hand, involves all systems, many of the systems, especially metabolic systems, that is diabetes, especially insulin resistance and hormone and androgen dysfunction in the body. Now coming to menopause, everything is done properly. If your dinacharya, ritucharya, rajaswala paricharya, garbhadhana, garbhini paricharya, prasava, sutika paricharya, that is the one which is taken after delivery. If all of this is right, your menopause is going to be awesome. If this is not done right, your menopause is going to be a little stressful. And so again, if you are already menopausing, there are a lot of supplements which can help us, help you go through that phase. And yes, so we have Ayurvedic supplements to help you there, and taking them is going to be, it's like a yapi chikitsa, that is, you take that for life, but it's not going to harm you in any way. So I suggest you should take help.
Think yoga also has is very beneficial when it comes to managing the phase of menopause. I have a very close friend of mine and a very senior yoga teacher also based in Bangalore who has herself taken the entire period through menopause, and she's been beautifully transitioning. So I see her as an ideal role model, when it comes to menopause, and I'm definitely going to be reaching out to her a lot when I get to that point in time. So yes.
Like I said, Luvena, there's nothing like yoga to handle vata and jara. That is a stage that is beyond, at the aging phase, is vata dominated phase, and
Mhm.
nothing like yoga.
Okay, a quick one. Does insulin resistance affect fertility? Is there?
Insulin resistance, yes, because we don't know what happens first or what triggers what. It could, if there are a lot of androgens which don't perform its actual function, fertility is going to be affected because estrogens are not going to be secreted properly, and insulin resistance can affect androgen secretion. And
Mhm.
androgen secretion can affect insulin resistance. So it goes on like this, and
Like a
somewhere
cycle.
we have to cut the loop somewhere, and we have to start somewhere. So there is no perfect treatment, there is no perfect doctor, there is no perfect anything. Start at home, start with yourself.
Mhm.
Start with the small things.
Okay. Do we have any other questions that needed addressing, Dr. Sharon, in what I had asked you for?
No, I think I
I
have
think
touched everything.
everything, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, then I think it gives us a good 2 minutes to close. And First of all, thank you. I know firsthand, and I know perfectly well that Ayurveda is no small topic to discuss in 40-45 minutes and take Q&A. So regardless, with the paucity of time, I thank you so much for giving us a quick lesson. If you can quickly tell the audience or let us know where we can find you and where we can see you on
So,
Instagram to follow up on you.
I'm on Facebook and Instagram as Sharon's Ayurveda, SHARON _S Ayurveda on Instagram, and Dr. Sharon's Ayurveda on Facebook. So yeah, so Instagram would be better place to interact with me if you need to, and I do respond to DMs. So yes, feel free to contact. It's about being healthy. And
Yes, and also to let you know that Dr. Sharon very kindly gives of her time. Uh, Although she teaches and she's doing all of that, but if you do know of women who are pregnant and especially or who are looking to conceive, then they may, a consultation with Dr. Sharon is a brilliant start to that beautiful journey as well. So on that note, everyone, thank you very much for spending the past hour with us. It has been informative, Dr. Sharon. Thank you again for your time. It has been lovely interacting with all of you for the questions that came in. Thank you to our council members, to Soumya, to Pragya for feeding us with the questions and comments or anything that was on our Facebook pages. And to let you all know, Wiki, the Karnataka Yoga Council, is something that we work with the community to build the economics and the commercial aspect of yoga. And since it is a sibling branch with Ayurveda, Dr. Sharon is also a part of our council, and we look to actually find ways in which we can build the community, and seeing how we can actually make recommendations to the government, to various governing bodies when it comes to different aspects of yoga in our lives. Our next Yoga Samvad next month will also include interactives with yoga teachers in the community, because we'd like to feel the pulse. We'd like to know what is going on and how we can actually, as yoga teachers, create this space of understanding and the space of how we can actually build the practice for everyone around us. So please feel free to follow our pages, subscribe to our newsletter. I see Pragya has very recently, just if you scroll up there, she's put in the Facebook pages. There's a community group as well where we'd like to start building up more interaction and communication. And I think on that note, we've all spoken a lot. There's a lot to absorb. If you've got any questions, please feel free to write to us. I'm putting in my email right there. If you'd like, oh sorry, I think I sent it as a direct message to someone. um I don't have Facebook alternatives. Right now our alternatives are Instagram, and you can write to us on email. Our website is still under process. Just a minute, just give me a minute so I do not miss this. Okay, that's the email that you can write to Wiki if you've got any questions, any feedback. The website, the Facebook pages are also there. The link to subscribe to our newsletter is also there. For now, we are most active on Facebook and Instagram to some extent. Write to us once our website comes up, then I think that'll be a better place. But if you'd like to interact, then that's the email. Anything else? I think I'm just quickly scrolling up. Okay, if we've conducted any online Ayurveda course, I don't know about Dr. Sharon, but I do have my. I think this is the time where I can actually answer that, Dr. Sharon. I do have my online Ayurveda courses. I have the advanced level that's coming up in December, but I think January we might have one. Unless I do have some free time for December, Vidya. I will put that up on our newsletter or on the pages or on the groups for you to see, and I'll be more than happy to have you in my class. And we will always drag Dr. Sharon Sharon in when we have extra spot for guest lectures to come in, right? So thank you very much, everyone. I think it's high time for us to, we've already shot 3 minutes past the hour, and thank you very, very much. We look forward to your feedback, to your comments, to further interactions, and namaste. Yes. The recording will also be available. It'll be there on the Facebook groups as well as on YouTube once the recording has been downloaded and further uploaded.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Luvena. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the questions, and thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Pragya, Soumya, for your help. Ritu. Hi. Akshaya, good to see you here. Patty, thanks for coming in. Preeti, yes, please write to me. I'll be more than happy to have you in my class. Aziz, thank you for coming in. It was a pleasure to see you here. Anshu, Aarti, Vipanita, hi. Janvi is also here.